Hello friends, Nicholas here, DIVO TED Talks. I'm on a roll here. That last one that I recorded, and I hope it ends up in the same order as I recorded them because I feel like I've progressively realized a lot today. Um, but I also have said before, this is my therapy. Like I'm talking, and it may seem like I'm talking to you, but I'm not trying to do that. I am opening myself and letting things flow. And one, this helps me because I feel the medicine of the movement of this energy being delivered through me as medicine. It's helpful, it fills my cup. And I have always believed that it will get to the person it's meant to, whether now or later or exactly when it's supposed to. And so, the latter piece of this, I think, is how do patterns, greater patterns, seasons, and you know, the application of force to become who we're meant to be, how does it all fit together? And I think the thread there is that there's forces so much greater than ourselves constantly acting on us that for us to decide the force that is necessary to get us to our greatest realization of self is myopic. Like we're too small to understand the forces and their greater capacities impacting us. And so these greater magnitudes of awareness at those levels are beyond our reach. And so to try to say otherwise is, to indicate a lack of self-awareness in and of itself. You can't see big enough or understand big enough to know what is best for you in the context of that level of awareness. And that's okay. This level of awareness is where you're at and where you should be. Because if you were meant to be at a higher level of awareness or organization, you would be there, but you wouldn't know the difference. And so being here, being now is the most important. And I found myself frequently as of late saying, there's gotta be more to this, and there's gotta be less of a struggle, right? Some of these forces that I'm applying to myself to be and do things or to look a certain way isn't fruitful and hasn't been fruitful for a long time. And it's not because I'm not smart and it's not because I don't have the right attitude. It's mostly because I am looking at things rather than from my experience level, then checking the boxes. I'm not a box check kind of guy. I'm a go with the flow kind of guy. And when I lean in to go with the flow, things seem to manifest in the way that they're supposed to. Pitta people can check boxes all day long. I am a Kapha, and that is not what I do. I like to be steady and dependable. And I like to show up, and I like to go home. It doesn't mean that I'm shirking responsibility, but maybe this doesn't get done today because it needs more space to mature, to ripen, to be done on this day. And, it's hard because we live in a world that constantly tells you that you're behind or you're missing out or you haven't done enough. And most of the people are crawling and straining and reaching to get into these studios so that they can have peace and release and, just feel better. And again, we believe movement is medicine, but the medicine sometimes is contextualizing your life. It isn't just breathing right, which is important. It's not just eating right, which is important. It's not just moving right, which is important. It is contextualizing who you really are, what you want to become, what you really are meant to be, and then what it takes day to day to do that. And I would contend that the only way to be able to hold all of those simultaneously is through meditation, is through calm and quiet and contemplation and trial and error. But if you look at every trial and error as a failure and then you stop and move on to something else, then where is that growth? Where is that specific adaptation to the imposed demand? If you give up, if you change direction, if you shift with the winds, sorry, Vātas, there isn't a foundation from which to grow upon. And so it becomes harder to build. It becomes harder to stack. It becomes harder to have a home base from which to pivot from. And so our patterns exist just as much on the inner as they do on the outer. And we spend so little time on the inner that we're doing ourselves a disservice. And so what are we called to do here? Well, it depends on what speaks to you, right? I am amazed when I meet people who really have a good understanding of what is right for them and what is not right for them, and then doing that. And, I sometimes look at people and go, wow, how could they want so little in life? And then I'm like, well, why do you want so much? Do you really want all the things that you want? And why do you want all the things you want? And some of my motivations come from childhood wounds. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But it is a pill, thus needing to be swallowed, because it helps contextualize why, where, when, how, and what to be, or where to be. And so, first, relaxing. Second, consistency. Third, notice what patterns you can, when you can, how you can, and try to move within their flow and rhythm so that you can find your flow and rhythm, weeding out what doesn't work and implementing and assimilating things that do work, and then getting better. And the longer you do it and the more you do it, the more space you have to hold all of that all at once. And then you can proceed in life without being so fickle, without being so easily knocked asunder or manipulated or challenged. You become a juggernaut regardless of your body type, although a Kapha is more likely to be a juggernaut as far as force and will. But Pitta is as well. Theirs is just more sharp and cunning, so they'll cut through it rather than blunt force knock you out. And I mean, the Vāta is so fast they can just teleport past you. And so you still can be a juggernaut in all these different doshic combinations. However, getting to your superpowers first requires getting honest about what your kryptonite is. Hey, Superman reference. So until you recognize your kryptonite, which may be things that you're forcing on yourself that aren't necessary, which may be putting yourselves in settings that aren't good for you, which may be trying to find worth and validation with people, with things, places, or whatever that never were really for you, and it's odd that you want them. Wanting things is not a bad thing. Needing things is a completely different thing. And then being able to dance with those two for, the greater validation in life, the greater fulfillment of life. Like, what do you really need? What do you want? And where is the pathway that makes sense, that doesn't kill you in the process, that doesn't deplete you in the process, that doesn't poison you in the process? That is the real yoga. That is the real quest. That is the asana and the sequencing. Is trying to move through all of those. And it first starts with dinacharya. And then it starts with acting rightly with yourself and acting rightly with others. The yamas and the niyamas. And then it's pranayama. And then it's asana. And then we slowly get ourselves into that dissolution of self, in that samadhi, that connection with all that is, or with all that is that thing that is me as well. All right, friends. I hope this tied it together. I think it did. Be well, be free.